All right. So now that we've talked a lot about how the government works and its responsibilities and what citizens need to do, let's talk about certain citizens who've worked really hard to make sure that that Bill of Rights applies to everyone in the U.S. Okay, so how have people worked for freedom? Well, many Americans in the past, and I would also argue currently, are helping others gain rights. Okay, so let's start over here with Anne Hutchinson. All right, she came here because she wasn't allowed to practice her religion in England. She came to the U.S. and stood up for her religious beliefs and said, I should be allowed to practice what I feel like. It's in the Bill of Rights. Okay. Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin also stood up for their beliefs. They believed that the U.S. should be free to rule themselves from England. So they wrote the Declaration of Independence, which was signed on July 4th, 1776, to help United States gain its independence from Britain. All right. So these two stood up for their beliefs. And of course, there's many others. Then we have a few who've stood up for others. Harriet Tubman, for example, risked her freedom and her life to help others escape slavery. Extremely brave. And then we have Frederick Douglass. He also escaped slavery. And instead of risking freedom to help others, he used his words to inspire others. He spoke out against slavery and wrote his own newspaper to tell about the horrors of slavery, to convince people this is wrong, it's unjust, and it doesn't give people their rights. Okay. Then we have a few people who've stood up for our country, such as Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president. He wrote the Emancipation Proclamation, which was supposed to end slavery in the United States. Took a little longer than that, but he wrote it to get it moving. Okay. Then we have Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who was one of the leaders of the civil rights movement in the 60s. Okay. And civil rights are the rights people have because they are citizens. Those rights we talked about from the Bill of Rights. Okay. He recognized, as did many others, that Black Americans were not being treated according to that Bill of Rights. So he spoke out against the unfair treatment of Black people to try to help them out. Now, I want to be super clear with you guys. There are thousands more people in our country who have worked for freedom. And there's thousands more today who are also working for freedom. And perhaps even some of you may be working for freedom in the future. So just because we're highlighting these few folks does not mean that they're the only ones or that they even did the best work. These are just some of the faces that we've come to know almost as national symbols that are important to note. And we will highlight current people who are fighting for rights as they come up in current events. Okay, so we would like you to read page 107 all the way to page 114 and answer all the questions that come along with that. You'll get a few more details about each of these people in your social studies book.